Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 233 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, Jerry Horton from Papa Roach, I want to let you know about the Mistress Carrie Grunge Brunch coming to City Winery Boston on December 28th. Doors open at 11. Music from Five Against None, the Pearl Jam tribute, begins at noon. Day drinking, charcuterie, and Pearl Jam classics. The Mistress Carrie Grunge Brunch, Saturday, December 28th at City Winery Boston. Tickets are on sale now. Get the link and all the info on the concert calendar at mistresscarrie.com. Papa Roach founding guitarist Jerry Horton is my guest this week. Papa Roach just announced their Rise of the Roach tour happening next fall with Rise Against and Under Oath. The tour is headed to the Xfinity Center in Mansfield, Massachusetts on September 14th, and 2025 marks the 25th anniversary of the release of the debut Papa Roach album, Infest. Jerry and I sat down to talk about the unbelievable milestone for Papa Roach that's coming next year that qualifies them for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Papa Roach is also getting ready to release a brand new album, and we should get the first single coming up in January. Jerry and I talked about his influences and songwriting, his family, and what made him fall in love with the guitar. We also talked about the early days of Papa Roach, when Last Resort hit the radio and how it changed their time on the Warped Tour. 2025 marks the 25th anniversary for Disturbed, Linkin Park, and Papa Roach, and it's going to be an amazing year in music. I've known Jerry a long time, but this is his first time on the Mistress Carrie podcast, so allow me to introduce you to Jerry Horton from Papa Roach. Hello, Mr. Horton.
What's up?
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you so much for doing this. Not like you guys don't have anything going on right now.
We're getting ready.
Yeah.
We're getting ready.
It's going to be a big 2025. And judging by what you have behind you, I'm assuming you're home right now.
Yep, that's right.
We're
behind the scenes.
You're in the music room at the house right now?
Yep.
I love being able to see the workspaces when I get to talk to people, because before this technology, I would be talking to you on the phone and I wouldn't get to stalk you and see what your music room looked like at home.
Yep, here it is.
Are those guitars ones you play, or are those keepsakes that you...
Both.
Both?
But yeah, they're from tours that we've done.
It's got to be a trip to look behind you and see the collection of gold and platinum albums growing.
Yeah, it's crazy because recently they audited all of the second album, Love Hate Tragedy, because originally we sold like 750,000 copies of that, but ever since streaming has come in, and they kind of re-audited everything, so now we're platinum with Love Hate Tragedy. We're double platinum with Getting Red Murder. So it's cool. It's really nice. Yeah.
This is going to be a very big year for Papa Roach, because a 25-year anniversary as a band is not something to take lightly. It is a massive milestone.
Yeah. And when we were little grasshoppers. We had dreamed of something like this, you know. We looked up to bands like Chili Peppers and Metallica and Rolling Stones, you know, and it's like we wanted to be that ever since the beginning, and it's crazy.
It comes up on the show all the time. Take the bands you just listed, right? Rock fans are so spoiled that their favorite bands are always going to be around because the bands you just referenced have all in the last year been out on the road releasing music. The Stones just got nominated for a freaking Grammy and they're in their 80s.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, you know, but if you have the passion for it and, you know, if you can make it work, you know, even behind the scenes and not implode, you know, that you're good to go. So
we've seen examples of that, right? Most recently with the guys in Jane's Addiction here in Boston getting into a fist fight, which was the most Boston thing to do ever.
Yeah.
Papa Roach, I mean, I've known you guys since the very beginning, so I'm getting all sentimental talking about your 25th anniversary and all the things that we've done together. And it hasn't been easy for you guys. You guys have gone through a lot as a band individually. You talk about it all the time in your music when it comes to mental health and addiction and the highs and lows. What has been the thing that has kept you guys together, do you think?
You know, I think the biggest part of it is that, you know, we respect each other. We, you know, we're brothers, so we love each other and we try to be there for each other. And, you know, we take a moment if we have to, like we give each other like a little grace. Like if it, you know, somebody's having an off day or whatever, just let them be. Or if somebody needs like, you know, to take a week off, just give them that and just try to be understanding of whatever, you know, somebody else is going through and just support each other and we'll get through it, you know, just having that attitude. And I think that really has kept us from splitting, like, because there's been a few times where it's gotten kind of rough and, you know, not even inner turmoil, just stuff happening outside where it's like, you know, are we going to get dropped from the label? Or, you know, this tour is not selling that great. Like, you know, what's going to happen with us? So just all those, taking all those things and trying to take them moment by moment and, you know, day at a time kind of stuff and just plugging away at it.
You mentioned Metallica earlier. A lot of people gave them crap in their documentary because they got a band counselor and a therapist. And now, just a few short years later, rock and metal as a community has kind of galvanized around mental health and mental struggles. And it just kind of shows you how ahead of their time the guys in Metallica were because it kept the band together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily broadcast it, you know, the personal stuff, but I get where they were going with it. And I understand the situation that they were in and all that kind of stuff. And I do think that it's important, you know, to talk about it because that's the first step. And, you know, I think that we're definitely lucky in the way that, people find the music to be something that they can lean on and just to kind of let everybody know that they're not alone. And I think that people having that feeling takes them out of isolating themselves and you know, helps them to feel like somebody's on their side. And I'm grateful that we can be part of that equation.
Has music always been that for you? Was it always an escape for you, even growing up?
Yep, absolutely. You know, it's like and not to say that I didn't have people there for me, but there are some times where you get inside your head and you tell yourself things, and that kind of make you like isolate yourself, and you talk down to yourself and that kind of stuff. And I think that listening to music is just, it's in its own right a bit of therapy, and it kind of just will trigger you to either get out of that mindset or kind of give you that comfort feeling that somebody's there with you, even if they're not right physically there, they're there mentally.
I have a theory about music that there's two phases of your musical identity. There's the soundtrack to your childhood, the music that's on around you as a kid that you can't get away from even if you tried. And then you discover something someday that you decide you like, a song, a band, an album. So what was the soundtrack to your childhood? What did you grow up hearing? And then what was it that changed everything for you?
So when I was a kid, my parents always had music going in the house. I remember when my dad got a CD player when they first came out. Before that, it was LPs, which at that time it was like Zeppelin, ELO, Foreigner, all the classic rock. And then the 80s came and CDs, and we had Thriller, and we had Wham, and all the 80s stuff. So that was my childhood. And then when I started my own journey, the first album that I bought was Girls, 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 which, looking back on it, I'm really kind of surprised that my parents let me buy that record.
I was gonna say that's
because I was like 11 or 12 or something like that, but then that led to Metallica and Megadeth and Sepultura, and so those were the bands that I found on my own and just fell in love with. So
how did you go from Mick Mars's shredding solos on Girls, Girls, Girls to thinking I want to be a guitar player too?
Well, it was like, it was Headbangers Ball. And, as I'm growing up, I'm around metalheads, and it was just like, it sort of became a natural progression. Like my younger brother had picked up the guitar for whatever reason. It's funny because he never really was into rock music. He ended up being like way more into hip hop, but he dropped it. He would just, stop playing, and it just sat in the house, and I just decided to pick it up one day, and the rest is history. But, I wanted to just, I took some lessons, and it got me started, but I got bored with it. And then I just decided I wanted to try and learn on my own. So,
does anybody else in the family play anything? Do you come from a musical family?
Well, it's funny because my dad didn't play, but his uncles and his grandfather had a band, and they were called the Horton Music Makers. And it was all like acoustic, and I'm guessing it was sort of like folk country type of a thing. But I didn't find that out really until a few years after I started really playing the guitar. So I was just like, and it was weird because, you would think that it's just in the family and it's just around, but it wasn't like we didn't have instruments in the house all the time. then to come to find out it is kind of a family thing. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Every guitar player that toils over the instrument, whether it's in lessons or at home in the basement, there comes a day where you play a song or a riff and you get it right. It's been described as like hitting the perfect golf ball. What was that riff for you when you finally went, oh my God, I think I figured this out?
I think it's got to be "And Justice for All." And then like, cause the intro and, it's very dramatic and massive sounding. And so like, that was, I think, probably the moment that made me really like want to further, like, this is what I want to do. Like to feel that, the power in that song and the dynamics of it. It was pretty awesome.
It's got to be every parent's nightmare when their kid decides, I want to be a heavy metal guitarist, and they're just making the racket. Guitars, not as bad as drums or the bagpipes or violin. I call them like the evil trifecta, right? Like the instruments you just hope your kid does not want to play, but them shredding solos badly in their bedroom has just got to be so painful.
Well, they did get me an amp that had a headphone input.
That first guitar that you have that you took from your brother, please tell me you still have it.
I have it. Yep.
Yes!
It's an acoustic guitar, but yeah, I still have it.
It breaks my heart when I talk to guitar players and they speak so lovingly about these guitars that made them fall in love with the instrument. And then you ask them like, do you still have it? And they're like, no, I traded it to upgrade to something and I wish I still had it. There's so much regret in guitarists that got rid of those instruments.
Yeah, I am a bit of a sentimentalist, so I have all my stuff. And it's funny because my first electric guitar, it was a cheap piece of crap. But as we were like progressing in the band and I was upgrading my gear, like my first electric that we first did shows with or whatever, I think it was sitting at Jacoby's house, and through conversation or whatever, a casual conversation about something, I found out that he had given it away to one of our other friends. And I was like, what are you doing, dude? That's my guitar. And he's like, well, you weren't playing it anymore. And I just, it was just at my house. So I just didn't think you wanted it. And I'm like, get it back.
Papa Roach almost broke up before they even hit it big. That is a fireable offense.
Totally, yeah. No, but we got it back, and it's hanging up on the wall. But that was pretty funny.
I remember when Last Resort got released as a single because I was on the air, and I remember playing it, and it felt like you guys went from nobody knowing who you are to everybody knowing who you are at the same time. Talk to me about what that phase of the band was like, where you're this up and coming band in the middle of this really kind of crazy, for lack of a better term, new metal era of music with all of these new sounds and the blending of hip hop and rock and metal. Talk to me about what that whole thing was like for you.
So the interesting thing about that is that we were on, like, it wasn't even our own tour. We were on Warped Tour when it happened. And, we got the offer to do the tour, and the deal was we were on like the third stage, and, of course they didn't have set times, but generally we'd be around like noon or 1 o'clock. And we started the tour as the album was coming out. And it took a few weeks for the word to get out and all that kind of stuff. But we could see in real time, because the first show, second show, third show, it was like a few hundred people, maybe, 1,000. Fourth show, fifth show, sixth show, there's a couple thousand people. 2 weeks into it, we're on the third stage and there's not enough room. People are pushing their way in and they were like, we got to move you to the main stage. And so we got moved over to the main stage. And of course, this is Warped Tour. So there's all these like legendary bands, who've been doing it for a while, looking at us like, who do they think they are, And we didn't really get too much in the way of like resistance about it, but it was they were kind of like, you didn't really like work your way up to get here. But at the same time, most people were pretty cool about it. And, by week 2 to 3, we were headlining main stage with NoFX and Green Day. And it was like, what is happening right now? It was crazy. Like, it was Party Central, and, the beer bong Olympics was happening, and, it was a great time, but it was just, and we didn't even really like realize how crazy it was to think about going from nobody knowing us to everybody. Yeah. So
it really does when you look back at it. And especially for a lot of younger fans, the idea of living in this world without the internet, because the internet was a very new thing when you guys broke, and not a lot of people had computers. Dial up, the speeds were horrendous. So this was all still happening organically on the radio, people seeing you at festival shows that maybe had never heard of you before. And then all of a sudden, everybody knows you. And it wasn't because you went viral on TikTok.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, right after that tour, we went on tour with Korn, and they kind of like, they called us grasshoppers. So they like took us under their wing, and they're like, grasshopper, we will show you the way. And I remember being on Fieldy's bus one night, and he was like, yo, I got to tell you, what happened to you guys is not normal. It's not always going to be like this. So you guys, don't expect it, figure it out, do the work, and don't be spending the money like it's always going to roll in. And that was really sound advice. And it's funny because he was like one of the biggest partiers in the band. So for him to like, that was a very interesting dichotomy.
You got him on a good day.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of anniversaries, those guys celebrating their 30th this year.
Yeah.
And what cracks me up is, because I started my radio career in the mid to late 90s, when nu metal really kind of took over out of the grunge era and really became, for better or worse, for lack of a better term, like the music, there was a lot of hate out there too. There was a lot of people saying, these bands are never going to stick around. I mean, I remember the Rock is Dead tour in 1999 because people were saying this music has no staying power. It's not sticking around. It's a flash in the pan. And when you go back and think about the bands they were talking about, Korn, Deftones, Limp Bizkit, Seven Dust, Disturbed, Papa Roach, Linkin Park. What a ridiculously stupid thing to say.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, because that was like it was sort of the same kind of a feeling that you got when the trend switched from hair metal to grunge. Like, it was just like what's happening with the world, like this is way too different. It was a shock to the whole system. And yeah, there was some backlash, but you know, we we just kept doing our thing, and people stuck around for it. So
I remember back in the early 90s, I forget where I was, but a bunch of us were talking music, and somebody was like, oh yeah, like this Pearl Jam band's going to be the next Led Zeppelin. Like I remember I don't know why I remember it, but I look back now and I'm like, well, they are.
yeah,
Like if
it's
you're,
true.
I'm not saying they're better or worse than Zeppelin or whatever, but if you're looking at pillars of the format, the biggest bands to come out of an era,
Yeah,
they are.
yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of bands that have staying power that are still around,
Hmm.
Last Resort is one of those songs that has never gone away. You alluded to the ups and downs of Papa Roach's career and times where it wasn't as successful as, being shot out of a cannon. But Last Resort has never not been there. Where are the craziest places that you have bumped into that song? Because it's literally everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be like you would only hear it in, a record shop, or maybe, obviously on the radio, but like going into a place, it was like you would never hear it unless you were in a record shop, or I don't know, maybe a club, like a bar or something like that. But I think it was last year, we were on tour, and I was in a coffee shop, and I was like, I'm in a coffee shop. This is weird. Like, but and then I look around, and the decor kind of fits the, it's sort of like a rock theme or whatever. But that was like, it was kind of one of those mornings you walk around and go into a place, and I'm hear the song. I'm like, coffee shop, really? But hey,
I knew something had shifted in music when I went grocery shopping and was like, who is picking this music? This is awesome.
yeah, totally. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah,
To
like,
not have music.
yeah. But the music at the grocery store
Yeah,
is actually good now.
yeah.
That's how you know you're getting old, I think.
Well, also, it's good for business.
Yeah.
It gets you in a good mood, gets you up. It's good.
You talk about getting sentimental and kind of looking back at 25 years of Papa Roach and getting ready to go out on this massive Rise of the Roach tour with Rise Against and Under Oath. Are there a couple times in those 25 years that you look back on, whether it be going to a country you never thought you would go to, meeting a hero you never thought you would meet, that are just highlights for you personally?
Yes. Couple of times where I met heroes. We were in the UK, and we were doing, I think it was the Kerrang Awards, and we're sitting at the table, and right behind me, there was I could see this really tall guy sitting down with a Hawaiian shirt and this massive head of curly gray hair. I'm like, who the hell is this dude? And then I look, and then I turn around, and at the same time he turns around, and it's Brian May, and he turns and he goes, "Oh, Papa Roach, you guys are great." And I'm like, "What?" Did he really say that? I'm like, go to shake his hand, and I'm like, this is crazy. And then also at MTV had that show Icon, where they would pay tribute to iconic bands, and we got invited to do the one for Aerosmith, and actually met a bunch of people there. I sat and talked with Brad Whitford, and he was like, "Papa Roach, you guys are awesome." I'm like, you cannot be saying that to me. This is weird, you know? And then also the Metallica guys were there, and a little bit of a backstory. I can't remember. It must have been a guitar magazine, like a Guitar World or something like that, where Kirk had said that they had brought up us or something, and he had said that we were a cheap ripoff of Iron Maiden, and that for me that was just like, really, like you gotta go there, like, you know, because we weren't fans of Iron Maiden. We didn't. Tobin wrote that on the piano and whatever. But my point to say that we met Metallica guys. Kirk wasn't there, thank goodness. I would have probably punched him in the face. But I met, you know, James, super cool, and Lars, like, and I think maybe I was the first person in the band to meet him, but he was like, "Hey man, really nice to meet you. I'm sorry about our asshole guitar player." And I was just like, wow, because he didn't have to do that, you know? And it totally, like, because I had heard stories about Lars where he's kind of like, could be, you know, awesome, could be, you know, or he'd have a bad day or whatever. But I was like, all right, that's pretty cool.
Has this, you know, Metallica thing with Kirk gotten straightened out since? Have you guys become friends since then?
No, I just left it alone. I was like, whatever, you know, because you know, it could be that he didn't think that we'd be sticking around, or, you know, whatever, you know. And I took from that, like, all right, watch what you say about people, because you never know, it really could get to them. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and especially coming from a band that you idolized growing up. I mean, those first guitar riffs we talked about.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, and it's kind of neither here nor there, but I looked up to James a little bit more than I did to Kirk, just because, you know, I really identified with James's playing and his songwriting ability. So.
When you talk to guitarists, which is something I'm super fortunate to do, you've mentioned some legends, right? Meeting Dr. Brian May.
Yeah.
But there are guitarists that are kind of like unsung heroes to guitarists. People rave about James's rhythm playing that he doesn't get enough credit for, because people just think of him as the front man of Metallica.
You take what he does, you know, playing rhythm, and you put singing on top of that, and I'm just like, how the F? You know what I mean?
And then the other example that you brought up was Brad Whitford from Aerosmith, because you think about the Toxic Twins, you think about Joe Perry, but so many guitarists go, but Brad.
Yeah, I mean, like, we had a conversation we were talking with Joe for a little while, and somebody was there going, "Oh man, I love this solo on this song," and he's like, "Yeah, that was Brad." And, you know, he's like, "Oh, but this one is awesome." He's like, "Yeah, that was Brad." So yeah, I mean, Brad's a real one for sure.
One of the things I love about you guys is that even though the band started in the early stages of the internet, as technology has come, you guys have been a band that has always kind of adapted early to new technology, to new stuff. And I don't know if it was during COVID because everybody was just bored, but the last resort stuff that was coming out in those early TikTok videos, the cut my wife into pieces, this is my last divorce, like all of that kind of stuff, you guys were so on top of interacting with the people that were making this content based on your songs, even if they weren't Papa Roach fans.
Yep. Yeah, it's I definitely have to credit my brother for that, because he's 3 years younger than I am, and he was handling our social media at the time. And, you know, that is, I think, that was enough of a gap for us to, it's like we were definitely, the band was on the old side of that, And because we were kind of fighting social media in the beginning, like
a lot of bands did. Even Maynard James Keenan from Tool came out and said that his biggest regret is keeping Tool music off of the streaming platforms for so long, because he realizes now in retrospect that was a mistake.
Yeah. It was just like, we kind of still had that mindset of, there's no more mystery. There's no more rock stars. This is ridiculous that we have to like publicize every little bit of our life and whatever. So we were fighting it. And he really, my brother Chad really like, through repetition and perseverance, drilled into us the importance of embracing it and kind of like, especially with the memes, like not taking ourselves too seriously, because, at that point there was still like new genres happening. Last Resort wasn't really like the coolest thing, but, being able to see it as sort of like making fun of ourselves, but also just realizing that because those people are doing those things, that we really became part of pop culture, and finding a way to use that to our advantage and really like embrace social media, and kind of having like sort of a yin and yang where, a lot of the subject matter of the songs can be serious at times, and, dealing with the issues, a lot of what Jacoby's going through, mental health and all that kind of stuff. But then also showing the other side of us where, we hang out and we cut up and we like to have fun and do stuff as regular people too. Figuring all that out and embracing it, I think definitely helped in our ability to kind of stick around and I guess, I hate to use the words staying relevant, but, building like the direct connection with the fans was probably one of the best things that we could have done at that time.
Well, you've also parlayed it from something that kept you relevant, something that was fun, to scars to a point, but leave a light on to a whole different level, that you guys are really leading this charge when it comes to this open, honest conversation about mental health and addiction, and talking about Jacoby's struggles and being so open and honest and raw about it. And it's something that has struck a chord with not just rock and metal fans, but music fans in general.
Yeah. I mean, when we heard the song finished, it was like, oh, because it's emotional. Even if you didn't know the lyrics, it's an emotional song. And, that was one of the ones where we knew that it could, just off the music, it could be a big song, and then it came to, well, we put out three other singles. We already had three singles, and it was like, we were our own label. So we're trying to figure out, all right, do we do this? We're talking with our rock radio promo guy, and he was like, well, we could, and it could be organic, and if it doesn't work, then fine. And Jacoby, I remember, I'll never forget, in the meeting, Jacoby's like, you guys aren't getting it. Like, this is the song. We need to go with it. We need to put everything behind it. And our management and our producer figured out a way that we could really bring, the voice of the issue out into the open. And so I'm just like seeing all this go down, and it's just like, oh, this is man. And then we figure out that, we get the offer to do the tour with Shinedown, and we're going, this is the perfect way to bring this out to people. And it was emotional every night playing the song. Like, people, because a lot of people did have the record and they listened to it, but there were a lot of people that were hearing it for the first time, and they were just like, everybody had their lights on, and see, like, tears rolling down people's faces, and it was just like, this is crazy. And then, like, talking to people in between shows and after shows, and they're just like, thank you. And we're just like grateful that we can be part of, sort of like being a conduit for people supporting the cause. And so it's a relationship that with the FSP that we're going to continue. And we told everybody that on the tour, it was like, we're donating half of our royalties for that song to AFSP. So the more you guys listen to it, the more you share it, the more money we can raise. And I think that not only just in that, but it's also been like really awesome to see the community, the P Roach fans, and I'm sure fans of other bands as well, just building their own communities within the fan bases, and like supporting each other out there is awesome too.
For anybody that isn't following, it's the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention who's benefiting from the royalties. And it's not just you guys. If I had told the guys in Papa Roach 10 years ago that you'd have a hit song with Carrie freaking Underwood, you would have been like, Carrie, are you drunk again?
Yeah. It's cool because we met her in Nashville, and we come to find out she is a Papa Roach fan, and we're just like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. And then a couple of months down the road, our management team is talking with hers, and they're like, hey, do you want to do vocals on this song? And she's like, let's go. And a month later it was done. And it's really awesome because like her voice just fits right in that space, and she's a powerhouse. So it's like, it just comes through.
She's donating her part of it too, her part of the royalties too.
Yep. So yeah, it's crazy because like we've been off tour this whole year, like, and that song has basically just carried us into this next year. And that's stuff that it takes a lot of hard work from a lot of people, but also stars aligning kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
You guys are teed up for this massive tour that you just announced, the Rise of the Roach tour, Papa Roach, Rise Against, Under Oath, a massive undertaking. In the Northeast, there's September 10th at the Hartford Healthcare Amphitheater, September 14th at the Xfinity Center in Mansfield, Mass., September 20th at the Main Savings Amphitheater. I'm tired for you already. Next year is going to be insane.
It's going to be tough, but we're trying to build breaks in here and there, but we have had almost this whole year to prep. We've been in the studio, we've been writing and recording, but also we see it as really like, a blessing to be able to like set everything up, pay attention to all the details, and, really try and hone the experience, like really like get into the nitty gritty of the show, the set list, all the production, everything. Cause, we're touring with bands who have done it for a long time, who also have hits, And, we're like, it is a little bit of a friendly competition.
Yeah, you don't want to get your ass kicked by your friends on your own tour.
Nope. So, and we're like happy and grateful that they're on the tour, because they're bands that we've wanted to tour with for a long time. We've just never really been able to put it together, whether it's like record cycles not matching up, or they've toured the States already and we can't do that or whatever. So, but like I said, Under Oath and Rise Against, they both have hits and they both bring it. And so we got to bring our A game, so we're setting up.
I spent a lot of time talking to Jacoby about the making of the last record, because we got such an amazing tidal wave of music that came out of all of you guys being forced to not be on the road.
Yep.
And you're talking about, the worst kept secret, that there's a new Papa Roach record coming out. Is this record different because you guys weren't locked in the house together with nowhere to go? Or were you able to kind of take that energy from the last record? Because you guys had a lot of fun with the Cabin Fever of working on that record. You could see it on social media, but also the way that you guys talked about it. So is this record still pulling from energy like that, or is this a totally different thing for Papa Roach?
I would say that maybe definitely the experience was different, because we kind of bounced around different producers, different studios. But I think that I think the energy is the same. Like we're still like fired up about it. And the first song coming is like, it's a banger. Like it's heavy, catchy, but it sticks in your head for sure. And the record is diverse, just like the last one. But it's experimental, and it's emotional, it's dynamic. I think it has a lot, and I think even though the experience was different, it has more in common with the last record than not.
Nobody will get mad at you when you tell me the name of the new single and when it's coming out and when the record's coming out. I promise you, nobody at the label, nobody in the band, nobody will get mad at if you dump all the secrets on me right now. So just go ahead.
I don't know if I can.
What can you tell me?
I can tell you that the song will be out before the tour. I think I can tell you the name of the song, but I might have to do it off of the record.
You look like you're scrolling through your phone like what did they tell me I was allowed to say?
What's the protocol?
What's the protocol?
Should I text my manager? Can I tell Carrie the name of the song?
While you're waiting for that text, I have to ask you this, because next year, on the actual release date anniversary of Infest, two things happen for Papa Roach. You fit the criteria to be considered classic rock.
Yes.
And you qualify for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Those are two.
That's crazy.
Right?
That's crazy.
25 years from the date of your first release, you technically are considered classic rock, and you become eligible for nomination for induction into the Rock Hall.
This is crazy world we're living in. Yeah, it's great. Like, every once in a while I'll see, something from Infest or whatever, and part of me thinks, that was just yesterday. But then you look at something else and it's like, that feels like a lifetime ago.
I go back and look at pictures of us from back then.
Yeah.
And we don't look old enough to be unsupervised.
Yeah. Yeah, I just saw a video from Tobin. Tobin's dad had video footage of us in the studio for Infest. And he was 17 and he looked like a baby. And I was like, and then it made me realize he was 16 when he wrote the music for Last Resort on the piano. I was like, 16? That's crazy. Yeah.
When you think about, because I'm not a musician, I wish I had songwriting ability. Like my clarinet days in the marching band did not parlay into rock star status, right? But it comes up all the time. You're talking about writing parts for Last Resort at 16. Brad Arnold from Three Doors Down wrote Kryptonite in a creative writing class in high school. Like, no, never when I was in high school did I get this lightning bolt of brilliance. There's not one decision I made in high school that I'm happy about. You guys were making decisions about writing songs and putting a band together that turned out to be the best decision you ever made.
That's true, but we sucked for a long time. Maybe not a long time, but at least a little while.
Well, you obviously worked out that awkward, pimply-faced phase of Papa Roach.
Yeah.
Because it's fine now. But I struggle to think of a decision I made in high school that was a good one that is still benefiting me now, and I can't think of one.
You know, it happens different for everybody.
The clarinet and the javelin throwing did not do anything for the future of my success.
I think you can use that javelin every once in a while, though. Just
I still have it. Don't make me angry because I'm still pretty accurate with it.
Trust me.
I gotta ask, serious question.
Okay.
Is Bert Kreischer really a member of Papa Roach?
Honorary. What? He's an awesome dude. Like we met him in Australia. Actually, we were on tour with The Used, and he was in Australia doing some dates and
shirtless, of course.
Yeah, and we met at a show. He came to the show, and he was like, you guys are awesome. I'm like, no, you're awesome. Like, and we just we had a great time. And then we did his podcast, and, Ian at our management had this idea, have a celebrity say they're in Papa Roach and go on tour. And it was like, okay, we didn't really get it at the time, but then we called up Bert and he was like, let's go. So yeah, he killed it on that. That was great.
The video's hilarious. I'm just like, oh my God. Again, like Carrie Underwood, like you guys are finding out that these people are fans of yours, that you guys are fans of, that you just never would have put that together.
Nope. Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Well, you guys are going to have an unbelievable 2025. And as somebody that has kind of, my career kind of started at the same time as yours, right? So we've kind of come up together and watched each other through the highs, through the lows, through everything. I don't think either one of us would have believed somebody if they told us 25 years ago that we'd still be doing what we're doing. And at the level we're doing it at, we would have been like, there's no freaking way.
Yeah, it's true.
We're like viruses that won't die.
Or cockroaches.
Or cockroaches. Yeah, just this crazy kind of thing to think back on all of the shows and all of the memories and the fact that 25 years later that this music has now found a whole new audience. That you guys have got grandfathers and fathers and kids out in the crowd now. That's got to be such a trip.
It's awesome. Like the fan base being like multi-generational is it's cool. Like from a sort of like a family man kind of a perspective, but also if it was all, if the crowd was all guys my age, people would be getting really injured. You know, there would be not really a mosh pit to speak of. You know, it's all like people my age are in the back with a beer doing this, but the kids in the front are going like crazy, mosh pit, crowd surfing, all the stuff that we used to do back in the day. So it's great for the energy of the show. And yeah, it just makes it all worth it.
And one thing is definitely different from the Warped Tour 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
When you look out in that crowd, there's a lot more girls in the pit now too.
That's true. Yep. Some badasses, I will say. Yeah, it's cool.
The girls have taken over the stage and the crowd and the pit.
Yep. Watch out.
Yeah. It was so good to see you. I'm bummed you didn't get a text back from your manager telling you that it was okay to tell me everything. I will wait patiently until I can get all the inside info. But I cannot wait to hear this new record and this tour. I cannot wait to see this tour. This is huge.
We're so excited. It's crazy.
It was so good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Carrie.
There he is, Jerry Horton from Papa Roach, the Rise of the Roach tour, hitting the Xfinity Center in Mansfield, Massachusetts on September 14th. Tickets are on sale now, and the link to get them is in the show notes of this episode. You'll also find all the links to find Jerry and Papa Roach online. You'll find all the Mistress Carrie links and the link to this episode's corresponding playlist. I make a playlist for every full-length episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast that features all of my guest music and all the songs and artists that we referenced in the interview. I even threw in the links to Jacoby Shaddix from Papa Roach's earlier appearances on the Mistress Carrie podcast. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, and share the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday. Plus, every weekday, you get the Sit Rep. The Situation Report breaks down all of your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates to about 5 minutes. And you never know when we're going to release a bonus episode. Join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern for my weekly streaming video show, Cocktails in the War Room. And of course, you can always hear me on the radio. Get the details on all of that and more at mistresscarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.